Hi, thanks for having me. And I'm going to speak to you briefly about some things that we've done. And uh, this is just perfect timing to put me behind Sharon, because Sharon, I'm going to hit on just about everything you said. You were so right in so many ways. And just so everyone's clear, Sharon and I have not met, and we did not coordinate our talks, just to be clear about that. So again, I'm Juan Gilbert. I'm the chair of the computer science department at the University of Florida. And let me begin by giving you just a little background about the University of Florida, where we are. So at the University of Florida, we have the nation's largest group of African-American PhD students in computing sciences. We have the nation's largest group of African-American faculty. We have the nation's largest group of female tenure track faculty as well in computer science. And so how did we do this? I believe we're actually the most diverse computer science department in the nation now. And how did this happen? So it didn't happen by accident or just because of where we are located geographically. It was intentional. And a lot of this, again, goes to some of the things that Sharon was talking about. So let me talk about some of the things that we've done and how we've accomplished some of these things. So I started this project many years ago. Essentially, I finished my PhD at the University of Cincinnati, and I started my career at Auburn University. And I made an observation. In computer science, at the time when I was getting my PhD, I was the only African-American in the PhD program. And I was the only African-American I had ever seen with pursuing a PhD or with a PhD in computer science. I thought I was the only one in the world. And so I was extremely isolated. And so I did an experiment. I said, well, wait a minute, I'm isolated. And you know what? This PhD process is challenging. But in my lab, I had several colleagues from China and India in particular. And I said, they're making this look easy. Let me go over there and learn from them. What is it that they're doing? And I made a discovery. First of all, in particular, Chinese students who were coming from a country far away that didn't have English as their primary language. And I said, well, wait, how are they making this look so easy? How does this work? So here's what I discovered. Those students had what I call footprints in the sand. In other words, when a student came from China to Cincinnati, when their plane landed, they had footprints off that plane all the way through being hooded on the PhD stage. So in other words, this is what they were doing. I could not find a single PhD program in computer science that had one Chinese student or even one Indian student. And I said, well, wait a minute, is it possible that they did this coordinated, meaning they were all in groups? They never go anywhere alone. So what I understood the footprints in the sand to be, they had at least two people at every stage of the PhD pipeline. And they shared information about where to live, where to eat, what classes to take, when to take this class, what do you know about this professor, all that information. It was never lost. So I said, that seems to be the method. I wonder if I could replicate this with domestic minority students. And yes, that's exactly what I did. I became a professor. And when I was at Auburn, I started recruiting students of color, in particular African-American students. And I replicated that model. And hence, we're the #1 producer of African-American PhDs in computing. So it wasn't necessarily something that I did that was, new. It was something that I observed other students had been doing from other groups, and it was working. So I was able to do that at Auburn, and Auburn was #1, and they're still one of the top producers. I left Auburn, and I was there from 2000 to 2009. 2009, I moved to Clemson, implemented the same procedure, and left Clemson in 2014, and we did it here in Florida. So some of the things that help play a role in this, and again, Sharon and I did not coordinate this. So first of all, she mentioned, and I'm mentioning role models.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, Juan. Do you mean to be sharing slides?
No, I'm not. I don't
Okay.
have.
Okay. I just didn't know whether that was a return on the keyboard. Thank you.
Yeah. So, for starters, role models. when I was at Auburn, we had 3 African-American faculty, and that was the most in any computer science department. Went to Clemson and we ended up hiring more. We had 6 at one time. We had 5 at Florida. I think there's only 80 in the country. And no other place has more than, I think, 2. So, or 3. I think Auburn has 3 now. And so what we were able to do was provide role models. And like what Sharon was saying, we actively recruited. We went out to minority serving institutions and we did what I call a targeted presentation. So the experiment was further advanced when I was at Auburn. I went to Spelman College, HBCU in Atlanta, all women college. And I gave a talk that addressed these barriers for persistence of minorities in PhD programs. And it broke down some stereotypes and misinformation. And 80% of their graduates the next year applied to our PhD program. So think about that. We're talking about a 45-minute engagement, and then 80% of your graduates apply to that PhD program. So what we discovered was that many of the students were first generation, and I was one of these students. In fact, when I went to college as an undergrad, I was a chemistry major. And I took advanced chemistry my first year and did very well. And one of the TAs was a senior, and he pulled me aside and said, Juan, you're doing well in chemistry. You're going to graduate. You're going to go to graduate school. And I said, wait a minute. Go where? He said, graduate school. That's what we do in chemistry. And I said, I got to go to school again? I thought I went to college to get a job. So I changed my major to computer science to avoid going to graduate school because I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand graduate school or any of that. And so by talking to these students and explaining what research is about, in particular, like what Sharon was saying, we talked about the application of research, meaning can you use, so in computer science, it was often thought that we work with, and this is a STEM problem in general amongst these communities, they think we work with phenomenon and other things, not people. If you look where you find women and minorities, in particular in PhD programs, it's in areas what we call helping professions. These are areas where there's a clear connection on how they can help other people. And so in my talks, I would tell them how we can use computer science to advance the state of health or things with people. And in your discipline, that you could see that easily. So making that connection and saying, this is how doing research in this area can help your community, can help people. That helped us recruit in large numbers. So if you look at our program now, the majority of our African-American students are women, actually. And we just graduated this last year, an African-American woman with a PhD, Hispanic woman, Asian woman, and a Native American woman, who we think will be the only Native American to get a PhD in computer science in the United States this year. And so by making the connection to saying, look, you may be first generation. This is how it advances you, helping others in that discipline. Here are some role models, people you can meet, and creating that critical mass in our PhD programs. My students are our best recruiters now. They help recruit others. So we built this, and it's helping us. About 85 to 95% of our students did undergraduate research, Sharon, tying back to what you're saying. They did an REU. A lot of them do them with us at Florida or through another network, but that helped. And what we had set up was an REU program that's targeting students of color, for example. And we tried to match them with other faculty. So we try and match women with female faculty at a university to do research in the summer. So we have a program that helped that way. We also have the Association for Computing Machinery, or ACM, Richard Tapia Conference, a celebration in diversity in computing. All of our students go to that. We have the Grace Hopper Conference, a celebration of women in computing. We send our students to that. So sending students to these conferences that are outside, they go to their research conference as well, but going to these conferences, again, helps retain them in our programs. So building this community, engaging them in research early and connecting that research to how it affects them and their communities are important strategies to recruit not only the students, but it works with the faculty as well. Um, we also bring in diverse speakers. So we have speakers that come in from other places. I'll never forget my second year here at the University of Florida. They were interviewing some students in computer science, and they found this senior, one of our senior students, and she told the reporter, you know, I've been here 3 years at the University of Florida in computer science. This is my first semester taking classes where all my computer science instructors are women. So that told me a lot. One, that's a compelling story because she was able to take classes with female instructors. Two, she noticed. The students notice. A lot of times faculty assume, well, you know, that we attend to that, but they don't see it. They don't notice amongst the faculty. That is absolutely not true. The students notice. And it has made a big difference for us in our recruiting of students and our recruiting of faculty now. And I will also say all our students are funded. So we provide financial support. When they do the RAU programs, we pay them in the summer. When they are PhD students, we actually give them a stipend and we fund them as well. We made sure to do that because these students have some circumstances. In particular, we saw a lot of our Hispanic students had commitments to help the family. And so what we were doing was providing means to fund them and they could help the family. And that was a case I had to make to some families. I've actually talked to parents as we were recruiting. And a lot of parents say, well, you could go get a job and make money right away. And so in computer science, what I started doing, here's the arithmetic that I would do to the parents and to the students. Our students would graduate with a bachelor's degree, and the average starting salary was like 70,000. And then I would say, you know what? You're an outstanding student. When you graduate, you're gonna go work, you'll make that 70,000. And because you're so good, you're gonna get a raise every year. How much do you think your raise is gonna be? And they would say, like, oh, I think it's 3%. And I said, okay, add that up. Where are you in 2 years? And they're like, 76 or something like that. And I said, did you know my master students who take 2 years to get a master's degree start out at 86 and 90? And they start going, wait a minute. It takes 2 years to get a master's degree and you start that far out? So what does it take to get a master's degree? So by talking about the financial benefits of getting the advanced degree, showing how that advances them and their family and their wealth and income in the future is something I have had to have conversations with families and these students as well. And lastly, I'll say you can't underestimate the community aspect of all of this. Our students do have student groups. We have the National Society of Black Engineers. We have we have ACES for our Native American students. They go to ACES. SOCNAS, we hit it all. And by having them go to these conferences and then forming chapters and things gives them community. And even working across departments is beneficial. In fact, it's interesting now because our diversity is so well known across the university, when other departments, even in other colleges, are recruiting a faculty member or student from an underrepresented group, we often get a call to help in that endeavor and meeting our faculty and our students. So these are just some things that we've done strategically to enhance our diversity. And just to put this in context for you on a final note, there are 222 African-American PhD students in computer science in the nation out of 148 computer science PhD granting departments. So that's about 1.5 per department. University of Florida has 16. And I'll stop there and answer any questions you have. Thanks.